Hello, everybody, and welcome to At the Book for Thursday, December the 16th. It is Zach Ewing along with Devin Jackson and Jim Derry here on bet.NOLA.com, and we are brought to you by the Caesar Sportsbook. Glad you could be with us today. We're going to be talking the football weekend to come, both in the NFL, some college bowl action, maybe a little NBA, just so we can talk about Devontae Graham and the Pelicans last night. It might be our only positive thing to say about them all year. I don't know, because the Pels go one step forward and two steps back. They get the 70-foot buzzer beater and then find out Zion's missing 4 to 6 more weeks today. So the beat goes on for the Pels, and the beat goes on for us, but we have a lot more positive things to say. How are you guys?
Doing great. I'm glad to see we're doing At the Book with you having the books behind you. It's wonderful. Perfect.
Yeah, we're not at the book today. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm out sick, and so I didn't want to go cough up a bunch of germs all over everybody at Harris, so I'm at home. Not COVID. It's not COVID. It's the flu, which this is the first time in my life I've been glad that I had the flu and not something else. So, but just, pushing through it. Devin, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Excited for this bowl pick'em. It should be a fun one and gives me reason to watch some of these games, because I was talking with you earlier, Zach, about some of these bowl games, and they're going to be rough.
Yeah, betting on bowl games is like an exercise in psychology and astrology and mathematics and all sorts of like keeping up on the news. It's difficult. We'll talk more about that. But what Devin's talking about is we are going to have a bowl game contest between the three of us, and Spencer the Guru Urquhart, our fantasy expert, is taking part too. And basically we have kind of like big bucks. We've taken $1,000 and $1,000 pretend dollars and chunked it down to where we want on each of the 43 bowl games. We don't have to put anything on a game. We can put all of it on one game. We can do whatever we want. And then at the end of the bowl games, LSU playing the last one, the Texas Bowl against K-State, whatever we have left at that point, we'll play like a Final Jeopardy type round, right, Jim, with the national championship.
That's right. That's how we're going to do it. And I expect to have at least $32 by then. So it'll probably all go on the national championship game. And, hey, I'll be happy. $64.
But the problem is when Devin has doubled up both of our totals by then, he'll just put $0 and there'll be no drama.
Right. He's the Ken Jennings of our world. So, it is what it is. But I think it'll be something fun. And then not only that, will we have the pick 'em, but we'll run each day's bowl games over again on the day that whatever those games are run. So, some days we might have 3 or 4 picks out, but we're going to run them all tomorrow morning. Every single bowl game will be out tomorrow, all 196 of them. And then, again, each day as we go along, we'll run them back again. So people will be able to follow our picks and how well Devin is doing and how poor I'm doing and how mediocre you're doing, Zach.
If it goes anything like Big Bucks, there is just no drama left in Big Bucks at all. So I'm glad to have another comp. Devin's got $1,000 on me and I've got $1,000 on you. And there's just no drama left at all. I guess we could start the max bet's $200, so you can't even do that. But I guess we'll see what happens. We don't have all of the bowl picks quite ready for you today, but we will talk about some of this weekend's picks when we get to Big Bucks. The bowl game start at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I get irrationally excited for bowl season because there's something on at like random times during the week. So if you're at home at 11:30 on a Tuesday, you're like, oh, what's on? Oh, hey, look, it's Western Michigan and Georgia State. Fantastic. I've always wanted to see these two teams play each other, and you convince yourself that it's this great game. And but listen, if you've got money on it, you're going to watch it like it's the Super Bowl, right?
I'm trying to figure out what would be better, to watch the Bahamas Bowl or the Rachel Ray Show. They're both bad.
You don't have to ask yourself that. Come on, man.
They're both bad.
I understand it. It's no Bad Boy Mowers Bowl, but it's still football.
You're right. I need a little Gasparilla in my life.
That's why I irrationally love the Premier League too in soccer, because the games are on when I'm
they're
home
about to
doing
go on
nothing
a
else.
hiatus.
Now, and that's what's, by the way, we need to talk about that too, because that could be coming to the United States next. There are postponements left and right in European soccer, but they're starting to trickle into the U.S. too, which is how this virus has worked the whole time. It goes to Europe first and then comes here, and we've seen some postponements in the NBA, and the NHL. Haven't seen any in the NFL yet, but we are
could be coming.
Yeah,
I will say this, Zach. Doing my picks this week. I told you how much I liked my picks this week, and this is truly is not meant to brag. I had a great week last week. Went 10-4 against the spread in my picks column. This week, even without COVID, I thought this was one of the toughest weeks to pick because the favorites are getting expanded. The lines makers are adding points to the favorites because the favorites did so well last week. And this time of year, typically favorites do well anyway because they're fighting for a playoff spot, especially double-digit favorites who are trying to cement their spot and where they're going to be in the playoffs. So when you add in COVID and you talk about teams like the Browns and the football team who are dealing with major issues, and even the Rams are dealing with issues, the Ravens don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to play, and you're trying to pick all these games on a Tuesday and a Wednesday without knowing exactly what's going to happen and who's going to be available. And even if they're going to play that game when they're supposed to play them, it's really tough. And so I would offer better beware going into this weekend. And a reminder to everyone, you don't have to bet every game. Just because we pick every game or I pick every game in my NFL picks column, it doesn't mean that you have to bet every game. Just pick a couple that you really like. And I was a little bit different with my big bucks picks this week because of that.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I think it can get difficult. I actually like this week. I told y'all last week I did not like my picks. I didn't like the slate. I didn't do well. I like it a little bit better this week. So we'll talk about that. But speaking of picks, let's play Cashing In with Carville. Jim Derry cleaned up on Cashing In with Carville last week, by the way, 8-0. Real good picks. And then also, where you needed breaks, you got them with the Browns late touchdown, got you over 2.5. I'm sorry, the Ravens late touchdown against the Browns. The Bears couldn't punch it in at the end for the back door. I mean, it's just one of those weeks where you picked good and everything worked out for you. So
it's worked out for me throughout the years. Whenever Duncan starts talking smack, it just fires me up. It happens in fantasy baseball, whether it be fantasy baseball picks or whatever. Whenever he starts talking smack, you can pretty much bet that I'm going to pass him up in whatever it is. I have throughout the past few years, and he gave me the impetus. I'm like, you know what? You want to talk smack? We're going to have to go 8-0 this week.
But now here you are talking smack, and there's still 4 weeks left. So you only got a 2-game lead.
When I talk smack. Yeah, but once I take the lead on him, gone.
Okay. All right. Well, with that said, let's play Cashing In with Carville. You can play NOLA.com/cashing-in, monthly and season-long prizes. If you've played so far and forgot a couple of weeks, that's okay. You get to toss out your last 2 weeks, your bottom 2 weeks. So if you have a couple of zeros, that's no problem. And if you beat James Carville for a month, you get entered into a drawing for those monthly prizes as well. So go ahead, go to NOLA.com/cashing-in to play. And here is this week's Cashing In with Carville. Well, welcome to Cashing In with Carville for this Thursday, December the 16th. A little bit before Christmas, a couple weeks to go before we really get into the college bowl season, but it does start this week, actually, with a couple of games in Louisiana, which we'll pick. We'll also pick some NFL games. I'm Zach Ewing along with James Carville. James, how are you this fine Thursday?
Well, the weather could not be better. I'm in Bay St. Louis today. The weather couldn't be any better. Looks like Brian Kelly's off to a good start at LSU. Got building up a head of steam going forward. And, the Saints 1-1. What about that freaking Pelicans game last night?
Oh, unbelievable.
I fell asleep. And then I opened my, of course, 3 people sent me a video of the shot.
They said it was the longest buzzer beater in the NBA in 25 years. So it was something.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll get them going. Who knows? Maybe.
Every time you're ready to give up on them, they jerk you back in.
It's like the old line from Dumb and Dumber. Just when I thought you couldn't possibly get any worse.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the picks this week. A couple of college football games here in the great state of Louisiana, starting Saturday afternoon with the Independence Bowl. Now, it's BYU, a top 20 team that went 10-2 but only rewarded with I say only, no disrespect to the Independence Bowl, but instead of getting one of the real big time bowls, they're playing one of the first ones. They're playing UAB. They're 7-point favorites, but you have to question the motivation a little, don't you?
Yeah, I do a lot. And there's a lot of times when you have a good team that gets stuck in a game they don't want to play. And it's usually a bad omen. So I'm going to actually go with UAB here. Although I think Brigham and Young is probably a much better team. They can't be excited about playing in Shreveport in December the 18th or whatever it is.
I agree with you on that one. Blazers +7. And then that night down in New Orleans at the Dome, the New Orleans Bowl, which the UL Raging Cajuns, no stranger to this bowl. They've been there several times before. Now, they lost their coach, Billy Napier. He coached the Sun Belt Championship game. Now he's off to Florida, where he, like Brian Kelly, had a good day closing on his recruiting class yesterday. But the Raging Cajuns now face Marshall. They're 5-point favorites at the Dome in prime time.
I like the Cajuns. First of all, it's almost like a home game for them. I mean, it's a bet for Jay Cicero and those guys that run the sports foundation that run the New Orleans Bowl. They love UL being in this game, and it's good for the city because a lot of Lafayette people will come in, and they're going to be excited to play this game.
All right. Let's move on. We'll talk plenty more about bowl games in the weeks to come because they start to come thick and heavy, as they say in England. We'll get to the NFL though real quick. The Saints get off the schneid, maybe too little, too late. Was running some numbers. Looks like they're going to have to at least go 3-1 in their last 4 games. But I think from talking to you throughout the season, if there's anybody who could pull that off, it's Sean Payton.
Yeah, I think we take Coach Payton for granted. The Saints since he's been here, it's been here for a while, probably second or third best win-loss record in the NFL. And you can book one thing. He's thinking overtime about how to win 3 of these last 4. I promise you.
It starts Sunday night with the Bucs, the toughest test of the 4. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, James doesn't pick the Saints games. He's automatically picking the Saints. The other 6 NFL games. The first one is Saturday night, and it's a good one in the AFC. Patriots at the Colts, and it's actually the Patriots catching 2.5 here on the road.
I'll take the road favorite here. Belichick is just, you just got to, sometimes you got to stand back, tip your hat, and say, wow.
He has them rolling. Do you think, and we can get to this later too, but do you think we could possibly see a Belichick versus Brady Super Bowl?
It's not, I mean, yeah, it's possible. Damn right it's possible. I mean, no one would look at it right now and say that, I would say it's certainly a possibility. I'll let some quant tell me what percent it is, but no one would be shocked if that's where you ended up.
We'll take the Patriots in that one. Moving on to Sunday, a big game for the last NFC playoff spot, and thus a big game for the Saints. Washington football team, all sorts of COVID problems. Last I saw, they have 9 starters on the COVID-19 list. They're in Philadelphia. Philadelphia favored by 6.
You got to like the Eagles. I mean, you can't have that much go through a locker room. You're on the road. You're not a terrible football team, but yeah, I would hardly call either one of these teams. But I think there's more going on in Washington right now.
Yeah, and probably the Saints are rooting for Washington because they beat them head to head and have that spot. But as we said, the virus really taking its toll on the football team. Moving on to the other side of Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers 1.5-point home dogs against the Tennessee Titans.
I wrestle with this one. The Steelers are not like the Steelers are old, but I kind of like them at home.
All right, Steelers at home. Another big AFC playoff battle, Bengals in Denver, and it's the Broncos favored by 2.5.
And I'll pick against them, and I'm going to pick the Bengals.
Picking the Bengals, all right. And finally, another team kind of ravaged by injuries more than COVID, the Ravens. Lamar Jackson looks like he'll be able to play, may be hobbled. They're at home. They've been struggling anyway, and it's the Packers -4.5 in Baltimore.
I like the Packers. This is Baltimore's got a lot of team issues, and COVID and everything else. And the Packers seem to be kind of they're pretty good. I mean, they're one of the better teams in the league.
All right. So we had a nice comeback last week, and we're looking to go into the holidays here on a hot streak.
We need it. We need a hot streak, man. We need a hot streak. I'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you.
Good games to pick. You bet, Dave.
James Carville, and we'll see him next week. So that was Cashing In with Carville, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. Again, if you want to play, you can go to NOLA.com/cashing-in. Check out bet.NOLA.com anytime for the full video. And again, I'd like to remind y'all, you can download the Caesar Sportsbook app yourself and peruse the lines. Get ready for next month's launch. NOLA.com/Caesars will get you signed up with the promo code, a $100 free bet bonus. Going to be a lot of fun when it's here. What's not a lot of fun is the COVID-19 raging again through the NFL. We were just, during that Carville segment, looking at more. The Washington football team is now down to 18 players to COVID, and the Cleveland Browns might even have it worse. They play Saturday against the Raiders, and they're down 20 players. And just during we knew they were already down Baker Mayfield. So, they've got a good backup. Case Keenum will start. Well, now Case Keenum's on the COVID list. So I haven't heard anything that they're going to postpone this game. I mean, the NFL just seems hell-bent on pressing ahead, next man up. But it's getting pretty hairy out there.
It's tough to postpone a game that you have on a Saturday. I mean, it's one of those special games. So it's, if it was Sunday at noon, it would probably be easier to move it. But I don't know if they're gonna. And they kind of warned before the season that, if you get COVID, if you have COVID issues, that's your own problem, which I think is ridiculous. But because a lot of these players that are getting COVID were vaccinated. So, I mean, it's not their fault that they're getting COVID. Unless you put them in, I'll put them all in a bubble. What else are they going to do? But that being said, I mean, what kind of game are you going to have if you have 20 players on the COVID list? If you're the Browns, I mean, how fair is that? And you got to take into account, lines have been changing back and forth. If you saw this COVID stuff coming and you grabbed the Raiders at +3 or +4 earlier in the week, and now, I mean, this morning it was +1. The Browns were +1. You got to think it's going to go to like +5 or +6 now. So that to me, that has to play into these things now. The NFL wants to partner with these gambling outfits because it used to be taboo, and now they're partnering with them, and now it's kind of wrecking havoc on that. It probably will go off the board at some point if they decide to play this.
It's off the board now. I just checked.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, but still, there are already tickets in on it, plenty of tickets, and a lot of people were taking the Raiders. So I don't know what you do here. This is a weird one, and I think again in a normal situation you move back to Tuesday. But I don't know how you do that with a game on Saturday.
I mean, I think if you've got to do it, you do it. But the question is 3 more days enough? You could keep having more positive tests. I don't know what or the Raiders could have an outbreak, and then you have the problem on the other side. So I don't know if there's an easy solution if you want to finish the season on time. You've just got to kind of soldier through, and I guess the good
or
news
you cancel it.
Yeah, the good news. I mean, you got 2 teams fighting for playoff spots, so that's not fair to somebody, but. The good news is there's plenty of football players hanging around on practice squads and sort of on taxi squads. I mean, it's not like you're hiring semi-pro guys necessarily, although we may get to that. I don't know. The NFL did change the testing mandate today to where if you're a vaccinated player and you're asymptomatic, you only need 1 negative test to get back instead of 2. So maybe that helps a little. But it's a mess right now, and it starts. Tonight's game is not unaffected either. It's a good Thursday night football game, and it's a huge game for the AFC West. The Chiefs can basically clinch the AFC West tonight. The 3-point favorites in LA against the Chargers. They have a game lead on the Chargers, but if they win, obviously that becomes a 2-game lead with only 3 to play. And I believe at that point the tiebreaker would switch to the Chiefs because of division record. So this is a big game. If the Chargers win, the two teams are tied up, and the Chargers have the tiebreaker from sweeping the season series. So the Chiefs are down 3 defensive starters, including Chris Jones to COVID, and the Chargers are down their left tackle to COVID. Austin Eckler has an ankle sprain. He's supposed to play, but he may be limited. Again, it's hard to know what to make of it, Devin.
Yeah, it's definitely going to affect a lot of teams that are vying for playoff spots over the next couple of weeks, and you just got to hope it's not going to ravage your team in terms of some of your top players. And we're seeing it affected tonight. It's going to be Saturday night as well, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday as well. So it's going to be all over the place, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. It seems like every day there is like 10 or 15 more people going on the COVID list. So in this game, I mean, Chargers down your top left tackle. It could get ugly for the Chargers tonight. Chiefs have won 6 straight, I believe, and are on fire. And I don't know if they can be beat at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are certainly on a roll. Jim, I know you're on the Chargers tonight pretty big, though.
I am, and this is a square versus sharps game here. I mean, anyone who just randomly looks at lines says, "Oh, the Chiefs only favored by 3," but the line hasn't moved much. In fact, it hasn't moved at all. It started at 3, it's still at 3, and it's because the money is on the Chargers, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they beat them the first time, and I get that the Chiefs are on a roll right now, and I've actually been on the Chiefs the past few weeks against lesser opponents such as Vegas and Denver and such like that, but I can't be on them here. I really think the Chargers are, I mean, dare I say it, a better football team. I think they're a better overall football team. And the Chiefs, without some of their key defensive players, what has been their strength the past few weeks during this run? It hasn't been their offense. It's been their defense. They have limited teams to, I think, 16 points or less the past 4 weeks, and impressively. So if they can't do it with their defense and they can't get a rush on Justin Herbert, and Keenan Allen's back, well, you talked about Austin Eckler being a little banged up, but they're pretty decent in the run game anyway. And so we'll see. But yeah, I'm still on the Chargers. I like this game a lot tonight. In fact, of the 16 game slate, there's probably only 6 or 7 I have a lot of confidence in because of all the COVID issues and injury things, and this is one of them. I really do like the Chargers tonight.
And it, again, crucially important game in the standings and division team at home. I know that's one of Jim Derry's golden rules is like, hey, division team playing a home game and they're an underdog, take those points.
Yeah, I haven't been as strict with it this year because it's been a weird year, and I think the home field advantage has probably been lesser the past year or two than it has been in the past, and especially in Los Angeles. But I mean, if you play this on a neutral field and you're talking about a team that already beat them once, what's different about the Chiefs now than was different about them in week 3? They're on a winning streak and they're playing better. How much better are they playing? Something's still wrong with Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not sure what it is. And I'm glad to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire back and running the ball well, and they are running the ball well, better as a team, and definitely playing better defense. But I'm not sold that when they play really solid passing teams like this one, that they're going to be able to stop them. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored tonight as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to that question, what's playing better, it's the offensive line and defensive line. And it sounds obvious, but that's the obvious answer in football. Now, having said that, you're also right. The strength of schedule has not been great over the last month. And now they're stepping back up. They're down 3 defensive starters. So what happens tonight? You are watching At the Book on bet.NOLA.com, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. We're not at the book for this one, but we will be back at Harrah's New Orleans next week. Want to take a minute here to look into some of the early college bowl games. Again, they start tomorrow with the Bahamas Bowl at 11 a.m. And then on Saturday, 2 of the 3 games hosted by the state of Louisiana, of course, excepting the Sugar Bowl, which is on New Year's Day. The first one's the Independence Bowl in Shreveport. Pretty good matchup here. BYU, you heard me talk about it with James Carville. They're 10-2. They're a top 20 team. The big question here is, as always, does this team want to be here? Are they can say all the right things till they're blue in the face. Oh, we love being here in Shreveport. We want to play UAB. We had a great season. We want to top it off. But is the motivation really there on the inside? And that's the question you've got to answer in this game, Devin.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for BYU to know whether or not they're going to come ready to play. I mean, it's been talked about, earlier this week as well, but they're a top 15 team playing in this bowl game, one of the first bowl games of the season. So I think, BYU comes out and plays, like they've been playing all season long. I think it will be a blowout, and I think BYU will win handily. But that motivation factor is going to be a big key. Personally, I think BYU wins and wins by double digits. I think they'll, even if they come out slow the first half, I think they'll be able to pull themselves out of a hole and still win the game.
And see, I'm actually on the other side, and it scares the heck out of me because Devin is nails in games like this. But if you look at just power ratings and computer ratings and things like that, UAB is better than you think. BYU is only 5 or 6 points better than UAB on these computer rankings as is. Then you add in the motivation aspect. If I'm getting 7 points, I'm taking the Blazers here. Jim, have you picked this one yet?
I have, and I picked UAB for all the reasons that you talked about, because I've heard the same thing across the board. But I got to say, one thing that makes me nervous, and I'm not going to change my pick, but I definitely don't love this pick, because everything Devin says makes sense. And the fact that not everybody, but a lot of people, a lot of talking heads are jumping over on the Blazers, and they're all saying exactly the same thing. BYU isn't motivated. Well, you know what? Maybe they're motivated enough to show the world, hey, we're a better team than anybody gives us credit for, so we're going to go out and smash the heck out of these guys. I just don't like everybody saying the same thing. Again, I didn't put a lot on this in my bowl pick'em thing, because I don't love it. And again, the fact that the only reason why all these people are picking UAB is because BYU isn't motivated. To me, that's not a good enough reason to take the bank and say, okay, I'm taking. I don't love the pick at all. And Devin's logic makes a lot more sense than ours does.
I agree with you. I don't think you take it just based on motivation alone, because, again, we're not psychiatrists and we've never talked to these guys. We don't know how motivated they are. We've just seen it happen in the past. But I will say, on top of the fact that if you look at power ratings and things like that, a lot of people think this game ought to be less than a touchdown anyway. So, it's a combination of those two things that leads me to UAB. But if Devin Jackson says take BYU, folks, far be it from me to dissuade you from that. Later on Saturday night in the New Orleans Bowl, 8:15 p.m., great for newspaper deadlines, by the way, the UL Ragin' Cajuns, -5 against Marshall. And a little bit of a similar discussion here, because if this game's played like week 7, the line's probably 8 or 8.5, depending on where it is, on a neutral field. But now that it's played after the season, Billy Napier's gone to Gainesville. Michael DeSormo's taken over at UL. There is some continuity there. He's been on the staff. Is the motivation still there for the Cajuns, who have won? They win 7 games by 8 points or fewer this year. They seem to come through in close games all year long. Can they do it again here? And are they motivated to win the New Orleans Bowl? They're going to have a home crowd. For whatever crowd there will be in the Superdome on Saturday night, it will be Cajuns fans.
I'm sure they're motivated, Zach, but I don't necessarily think. I mean, you talk about continuity. I don't care who is the interim coach. When you lose your head coach, especially someone like Billy Napier, that's a big difference. So, again, here's another game where I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into my pick, but I have Marshall in this one, and I just think that Napier not being on the sideline is going to make a huge difference. You talk about something you're used to looking at the same guy all year long. You're looking at going timeouts and going straight to the head coach. Oh, wait, the head coach isn't there anymore. And Napier, obviously, it was a big deal to him to stay throughout the Sun Belt Conference Championship, but now he can't stay because it's recruiting time. So this is a little bit different situation, and I take Marshall, and not with a lot of big bucks picks or whatever we're calling them, but I don't like the Cajuns in the spot in this game. I think they might find a way to win, but I think 5 points is too many to give.
Devin, I know you've been on the Cajuns pretty much all year long, and you've been right pretty much all year long. How do you feel about this spot?
I don't love them covering in this game. I just think the way that they play, it's they're not built to win like double-digit type games. They play like within 6 points, field goal game. And they're going to be down one of their running backs, Chris Smith, as well as a defensive tackle. So that's going to play a part too in this game. And I think Marshall is better than what their record says. They got to a hot start and then kind of waned out during the duration of the season. The quarterback has turned the ball over quite a bit this season as well. But I think they'll be more than juiced up and ready to play this one. And I think this is a game that is probably decided by a field goal, comes down to kind of the final minute. So I think I would pick Marshall to cover if I were picking any of them. But I'm picking if I'm betting anything on this game, I'm probably betting the under.
Yeah, it does seem like a high total. Cajuns have played a lot of low-scoring games, 55, pretty high. To run through the rest of the weekend's bowl games real quick, tomorrow, 11 a.m. is the Bahamas Bowl, Middle Tennessee and Toledo. It's Toledo -10. Then tomorrow night at 5, Northern Illinois against Coastal Carolina in the Cure Bowl, and that's Coastal -11. And Saturday of the Boca Raton Bowl, App State -3 against Western Kentucky. The New Mexico Bowl, Fresno State -11.5 against UTEP. We talked about the Independence Bowl. The Lending Tree Bowl, Liberty -9.5 against Eastern Michigan in Mobile. And then the LA Bowl, Utah State catching 7 points against Oregon State. That's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl there, Jim. And then the New Orleans Bowl is the nightcap. And then on Monday at 1:30 p.m., actually, while we'll be filming odds and ends, this one will be wrapping up, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, Old Dominion and Tulsa at 1:30 Monday afternoon. So that's your bowl lineup for the weekend. Let's turn our attention back to the NFL, and we'll talk Sunday Night Football. We'll talk the New Orleans Saints now. And the Saints have dug themselves quite a hole. We know that they're 6-7 after a 5-2 start. They did beat the Jets last week. Going to have to beat the Buccaneers this week to keep the momentum going, or else probably put themselves in a must-win situation going into the final 3 weeks. A lot of points in this game to play on the point spread. First of all, guys, what do you feel about that 11-point spread? Second of all, do the Saints have a snowball's chance of pulling the upset here?
Boy, that's tough one to answer because so they have a snowball's chance. Of course, they beat them 3 times in a row in the regular season. Is it likely? Absolutely not. I mean, I said in my picks column this week, it's not one of my favorite picks because I never like laying 11, especially in a division game. But this is not a good spot for the Saints at all. I mean, you're going on the road for the second straight week. You have you're not sure about the health of your tackles, even though Teron Armstead played last week. He's iffy. How's Kamara going to respond after a week of playing where he touched the ball 30-some-odd times? Taysom Hill is still trying to figure out that finger. And you got a Tampa Bay team that's motivated because they can they can clinch the division title by winning this football game against a team that they've lost to 3 times in a row in the regular season. Don't think they don't know it. They're waiting to put on a show. I like Tampa -11 here. Again, I don't love it, but I don't see how the Saints can keep up in this game. What do the Saints do best is run the football. This isn't Jameis Winston throwing the ball. It's Taysom Hill. They're going to force you to throw the ball. So Taysom's going to have to throw the ball. Who's he going to throw it to? I have no idea. I just don't see the Saints scoring a lot of points in this game. I think it's this could easily look at the Bucs. They beat the Giants 30-10 a few Mondays ago. I think that's a score that could very well happen again.
You know who threw the ball okay against the Bucs? Trevor Siemian.
Give me a break. Don't go there.
He did.
Don't go
he was fine.
there. Again, we have to go through the whole. It's a lot easier to play when you just jump. You throw your clipboard down to the ground. Oh crap! I got to get in the game and go in and play, as opposed to a whole week of preparing for a team, like deer in the headlights. And you look at film and you're like, "How am I going to do that?" There's a big difference. And obviously, Trevor Siemian, when he has time to prepare, he's awful. And look, Taysom Hill is not played poorly at all. I think he's played well. You look at his 4 interceptions against Dallas, and sure that 4 jumps out at you, but 2 of them came in the final quarter when he was pressing. And I thought he had played really well up to that point, as well as he could play coming in with no weapons. And, again, that phantom blindside block play kind of changed the game. I'm not saying the Saints would have won, but I think that would have been a whole different ball game if you look at where the Saints were. They had just stopped Dallas 3 and out to start the second half and we're driving, it's a completely different ball game. Again, I'm not saying the Saints would have won, but it would have been a much different game, and Taysom would not have thrown 4 interceptions. And you can throw your hands over your face all you want. Trevor Siemian is not the answer for anyone, and he will not – after this season, I'll make you a bet. He won't be on any NFL roster ever again after this season's over.
I'm not going to sit here and defend Trevor Siemian. What I am going to do is point out hypocrisy where I see it. And what I see is when the Titans get a call that literally gives them 7 points in the game that was decided by 2, literally gave them 7 points, okay? A roughing the passer call, everybody agrees, never should have been called, changed an interception into a 1st and goal. They end up scoring a touchdown, gave them 7 points. After that happens, Jim Derry gets on his podcast, he gets on Datitude, and for 30 minutes, it's, oh, you can't blame the refs. You can't just blame one play. You can't just blame Sean Payton.
I'm not blaming
it's the quarterback. It's Trevor Siemian. He's the problem.
I didn't blame one play.
But when we have, again, an egregiously bad call in the Cowboys game.
I didn't say they would won.
But it cost them what?
I said his numbers would have been different. That's all I said.
It cost them a 1st down. And all of a sudden, we're making excuses for Taysom Hill. We won't make excuses.
I'm not making any excuses for
it.
Taysom Hill. I'm saying his numbers would have been different. That's all. I didn't say the Saints would have won. I said, let me just say this. If you think that Taysom Hill is worse than Trevor Siemian or even kind of close to the same, then you need to stop watching football and you probably ought to take up playing golf for a living or something. Or
I'm no good at that either.
Or being a caddy or sweeping at Home Depot because you don't know what you're talking about watching football. If you think those two are even kind of close, you're not in the right profession.
I'm not trying to say Siemian is better than Taysom Hill. I'm saying your analysis of what goes on around them has been drastically uneven. And Devin will back me up. I know he will.
I'll let him go. I don't think he's gonna, but I'll tell you what. I'm gonna let Devin say what he wants to say. But you're taking what I said completely out of context. I was not defending. Not. Yes, you are. I was not defending Taysom Hill.
The call doesn't matter in Tennessee. The call matters in Dallas, even though the call.
All I said were his numbers might have been a little bit different. And I know one thing. Taysom Hill hasn't dug the Saints any holes that they couldn't climb out of. And Mr. Siemian did that in 4 straight games. So go ahead, Devin. You can be the judge and jury.
I just wanted to talk about this Sunday's game.
Go for it.
He's pleading the fifth, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to get in that argument, but I will talk about Sunday's game with the Buccaneers and Saints. I think for the game, they're going to have to give Alvin Kamara probably north of 30 touches to have a chance in the game. They just don't have enough weapons on the outside to really make things happen naturally. And Kamara, to me, is going to be, if they are going to keep within that 11-point line, they have to play similar to a game what they did against the Packers last year on Monday night, where Kamara was pretty much the entire offense. So I don't think the Bucs are going to cover the 11-point spread. I think the Saints will cover. I do think that the Saints are going to lose the game and struggle on offense. But I think the defense is going to come ready to play, and they've shown, I know the Bucs have a point to prove, but the Saints have shown they can defend Tom Brady and his weapons and hold them within 20 points.
Yeah, I like the Saints to cover the spread. I don't think they'll win the game outright. It is worth mentioning the Bucs have a significant injury problem too. Leonard Fournette has missed 2 straight practices, so we'll see about their injury report tomorrow. Of course, Ronald Jones is not bad as far as backup running backs go. And, again, if the Bucs with Tom Brady and the weapons they have catching passes, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter anyway. They're going to score some points, which puts the onus on the Saints offense to keep up. And that's going to be the difficult part.
Real quick, Zach, like 10 seconds. I agree with Devin about what he says for the Saints to have a chance that Alvin Kamara needs to touch it 3 times. I don't think they can after just coming off the injury list. I mean, do you really want him to touch the ball 30 times again when you're going to need him down the stretch? So I don't even think Sean Payton's going to try to do that. I think this is going to be one of those write-off games. I'm not saying the Saints are going to intend to lose, but I think they know that they have to win their last 3 because they're going to lose this game. You have to win your last 3. So you need to stay as close to healthy as possible. And if you write this one off to do that, so be it.
This is where I ask you if you know what 10 seconds is. Because
No,
that was like 35. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
well, I've
it's
been
okay.
intending to keep my podcast at an hour and 15, and it's been like an hour 30, hour and 45. So that's what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, though. I mean, I think it is certainly possible, especially if Tampa Bay jumps out to a 13-3 lead or something. Like, look, are we going to go out there and risk Kamara re-injuring himself, Taysom Hill hurting himself trying to run for 100 yards? When we know that we've got to come back. The good thing is for the Saints, they got an extra day. They play Monday night the following week. But still, you don't want to beat your head against a wall trying to beat a team, especially if you fall behind early. So we'll see what happens. Bigger picture, NFC odds to make the playoffs. This is as of this morning at Caesar Sportsbook. And again, you can download the Caesar Sportsbook app, look up odds like this for yourself at NOLA.com/Caesars. But right now, this is assuming the Rams make it, the Cardinals make it, Packers, Bucks, and Cowboys. Pretty safe assumptions there. And so there are 2 spots left. And you're starting with the 49ers. They've got a game on the field, and they're minus 400 to make it. The schedule is pretty soft for the 49ers down the stretch, and so that makes sense. So if you give them the 6th spot, the rest of these teams fighting for 1 spot, and everyone, outside of the Seahawks who are a game further back, you could kind of throw them all into a hat. They're all pretty well underdogs. The Eagles, a slight edge. Of course, they're facing COVID-ravaged Washington this weekend. When you guys look at this list, are the Eagles the team most likely to grab that 7th spot? To the Saints have value at plus 350? What do you think?
I think you're assuming the 49ers are going to get in the playoffs. I mean, I have one of the big upsets of the past few weeks this week. I think Atlanta's going to beat San Francisco. And I know Saints fans don't want to hear this, but other than the Bills, the Falcons, if they win this game, they're in really good position. I love them at 650. I don't think they're 1-1 or 2-1, or 1-2 at 650. I love them. If they can win this week and get to 7-7, they got the Lions, Bills, and Saints. And if that last game comes down to Saints not caring, it's going to be real interesting to see where that goes. But to me, that is the best bargain on the board is the Falcons.
I think you're crazy for thinking the Falcons can go to San Francisco and win. Who's the best team the Falcons have beat all year? The Saints, I guess. The 49ers are better than the Saints.
Yeah, but the 49ers, I mean, who have they beat? They can't win at home.
Won in Cincinnati last week.
The 49ers have been terrible at home. The Falcons have been great on the road.
Devin, what says you?
I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think they're the best value on the board. I know they kind of have a tough schedule down the stretch, but when I look at these other teams, I mean, Washington, do we even know when they're going to get all their guys back, with COVID and whatnot? And they have a tough schedule down the stretch. Philly, maybe. I mean, we know that the Sharps love Philly and kind of the analytics they do. But the Vikings, to me, I feel like they have the best. I would say out of these teams listed, they probably have the best talent, especially offensively. But they're just the most inconsistent team on this board. So I would probably pick the Vikings if I had to pick one.
Yeah. And Jim, one thing you're right about, though, if the Falcons do upset the 49ers, that will flip this whole thing on its head because you're going to have a whole bunch of 7-7 teams and suddenly going to have 2 spots available. By the way, the 49ers best win clearly 31-10 at home over the Rams on a Monday night. So that's the answer to that question. Looking at the AFC, again, these are a little bit more just because we only have so much room. We're assuming the Ravens and the Chargers, who are both 8-5, just not even assuming that they're getting in. We just didn't list them. Their odds are lower than this. They're both 8-5. They both have a game on the field. So if you let them in, that's 2 spots for this list of teams. Right now, the Bills and the Colts are the favorites to get those spots. Again, this was this morning. I have not checked. The Browns line may have gone down even more with their COVID cases. The Bengals still a decent shot. That Bengals-Broncos game, obviously huge this week in Denver. But it's a lot more wide open here, Jim, at least according to the odds.
I'm going to tell you this is value. This isn't who I think is going to go to the playoffs. But as far as value goes, and I don't even like this team, I wouldn't bet this. But if you're looking for value, this is my opinion on the best value. If the Steelers win this week and go to 7-6-1, I know they got to play the Chiefs next week, but after that, they got the Browns and Ravens. they could easily get to 9-7-1, which might be good enough, especially if the Colts lose to the Patriots this week and are 7-7. So if you're looking for value, I think the Steelers are it at 650. I love that play right there. But to be honest, I'm staying away from all of these picks because I don't think there's not any value here except maybe the Bengals at 170. But you're not getting value with the Browns. You're certainly not getting value with the Colts and the Bills. And the way the Bills are playing, they could easily miss the playoffs. So there's no other value on this list. Maybe the Dolphins if you want to throw 10 or 20 bucks on it. But they got to run the table to get there. I don't think they're going to do that.
By the way, you can bet these the other direction too. So like the Browns, if you say, man, there's no way they can win this game with COVID, they're minus 145 to miss the playoffs. The Bills are plus 230 to miss the playoffs. So, you got to pay juice, but you can bet it the other way too. Again, go to NOLA.com/Caesars. You sign up. You can see all these odds for yourself. It's under the futures tab on NFL. Devin, any value in your eyes on this list?
I know for one, I'm kind of disagree about the Steelers. I've looked at their finishing schedule. They play the Titans, the Chiefs, I think the Browns and Ravens to finish the season. So that's kind of a brutal stretch to have to end the season for them. Honestly, I really don't like any of these teams.
Would you bet somebody to miss it on this list? Would you bet the Browns minus 145 to miss the playoffs?
I would bet the Steelers to miss the playoffs for whatever their value is to miss it.
You're not going to get much on that.
You got to lay $750 to win 100. Nobody's going to do that.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's actually, guys, the juice is way up on that. It's minus 1,200. So that would be more of a investment opportunity if you want the book to hold your money for a few weeks before you cash in.
Yeah. I just don't love any of these teams. I'd probably say the Browns, the Bengals, excuse me, if I had to pick, because I just think they have enough to make it to the playoffs, but they don't have a great stretch to end the season either. So
yeah,
this is tough.
There's not a lot of value on this list. I think we all agree on
no,
that.
And Zach, what I was saying was to kind of to Devin's point. I'm not saying I advocate that Pittsburgh's going to go to the playoffs, but I think if they play the schedule out 6.5 times, I think they're going to make it more than once, is my point. So I think there's a good value there on Pittsburgh. I'm not saying Pittsburgh's going to go to the playoffs, but really, if they beat the Titans this week, they're only a point dogs now. In fact, some places you can find them at Pickett. Even if you throw out the Chiefs game, they could easily beat the Browns and Ravens. We don't know what the Browns' status is going to be. And besides, they haven't been playing that well anyway. And the Ravens certainly haven't been playing very well. Lamar Jackson, if he's got a banged-up ankle and got an issue, those are the kinds of things that can last for the rest of the year. So they could easily win those last 2 games. So really, to me, the Steelers' chances hinge a lot on whether they're able to pull this win off. I don't think they're going to win this week, but at 6.5 to 1, if they win this week, their odds are going to go to probably plus 250 or plus 300.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind, again, the Ravens and Chargers are not on that list. They're both 8-5. They're both underdogs this week, so they could be 8-6, and all of a sudden they're back in this fray as well. Right. So now somebody from the NFC North has to make it. If the Ravens fall back to the pack, somebody's got to win the division. So we're running out of time. Let's play big bucks here on At the Book. Quickly look back at last week. A pretty good week for you guys. Not so much for me. I told you that as soon as I submitted it, that Army-Navy pick, I thought, don't know about that. Jim, you want to tease. You had to sweat it a little bit, but the Ravens got to that late touchdown and won you your teaser.
Yeah, I'm not gonna jump a high horse or anything. I certainly did have a little bit of good fortune last week in lots of areas, not just with this pick, but yeah, the Ravens needed, with their backup quarterback when they had when Lamar Jackson went out, I thought I was in a lot of trouble. But the Broncos, in hindsight, I probably should have played that for more by itself. To me, that was one of the easiest plays of the week, which is why I put it in with this teaser. Last week, just I don't know. I don't know if it was. I told you I just saw things a little bit differently. I liked a lot of favorites. I don't usually like a lot of favorites, but I did last week, and it just kind of worked out that way.
All right, moving on to this week's best bets, our best pick of the week. Devin, we talked about this briefly on odds and ends on Monday, looking ahead at the bowl season. You really like UTEP to cover in the New Mexico Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the better bets of the early bowl season, I would say. The Fresno State's quarterback situation is still up in the air. I checked like last night and this morning, and there's still no word on that. Plus, it's only like less than a 4-hour drive from El Paso to Albuquerque. So I expect a lot of UTEP fans to show up and cheer on their team. And I just think they're going to play a really, really good football game. I just don't think Fresno State is going to be as juiced up to play. They lost their head coach to Washington. So I think that motivation factor is going to play in a little bit in this game.
Yeah, it's that's an interesting one. Jim, I got to have a quick explanation from you, because you, in your picks column, took the Colts -2.5, but instead of teasing them to +3.5, you went the other way and teased the Patriots. Did something change your mind, or you just like the number?
Spoiler alert, tomorrow's Datitude when I pick with Uncle Big Nick. I would rarely ever do this, but I love the spot here. I have both in my 5-star picks. I have the Colts -2.5, and I have the Patriots in a teaser at +8.5. I just think it's going to be a close game. I think to me, this point spread is they're begging you first to take the Patriots, which I don't like. So I can easily see the Colts winning by a field goal. But I don't think in any stretch of the imagination do I see the Colts blowing out the Patriots. So I just think it's going to be I'm basically betting on the number here. I think there's good value on both sides, especially in a teaser. So I guess vice versa. If you took the Colts in the teaser, you could do that. But I don't see Bill Belichick getting blown out. And the Bengals, to me, are sort of my Broncos pick from last week. I think they win the game outright. So I'm just kind of put them in here as the safe side. And I'm going to go with the Patriots in kind of a rolling of the dice. But I just don't see Bill Belichick getting blown out, even though I think he loses.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of paint yourself into a corner betting both sides of it like that, but there is a possibility you can win both sides of that. So we shall see. My pick of the week, I made this last night when the Urban Meyer news dropped. I just think that the way things were going for Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, fired real early this morning or real late last night. It's an incredibly freeing thing for a team to be out from under a coach they don't like. I think they're going to try some things. I think they've got some talent. Trevor Lawrence, not least of which, and they're playing a bad team. They're playing them at home. I like the Jaguars this week. I mean, I think they can go out there and play free, and I think they play their best game in months. And I'll take Jacksonville.
Good luck.
All right, real
that.
quick, making the Jaguars your best pick is a scary proposition. Running, but I like to live dangerously. We're running late, so just a couple of highlights here, Devin, besides the UTEP game on what you like this weekend.
Yeah, I like Utah State +7 against Oregon State. Utah State is coming off a great season, and they've really put up a ton of points in pretty much all of their games. I think they're going to be able to score early and often against Oregon State, and they're going to be juiced up, ready to play for that one. It's going to be at SoFi Stadium too, so I think they're going to be ready for the big lights and play really well in that game. And then NFL, I like the Bengals +2.5 against the Broncos. I know the Broncos coming off a big-time win. It was against the Lions, and the Bengals are making that playoff push. So I think they'll, not only cover the spread, but outright win that one. So that's why I took the Bengals there.
On to Jim's Big Bucks picks. Jim, I know we talked about this. The Chargers you like tonight, and then we talked about that teaser. You also got a little Big Apple teaser in there. And maybe a pick you regret, the Browns. They just keep getting more and more guys sick, so I don't know.
No, I don't. I'm going to lean on, you saw the Rams have COVID issues last week and they still won. So I don't like the fact, obviously, the Browns are having trouble at quarterback. So I just don't, I got to say, I don't know. Something might happen before they play this game. So we'll see. But really, the one that I want to talk about is like all the sharps are thinking the Lions are going to play well all of a sudden. And it's kind of bothering me. And I guess the reason is because you look at it logically, it doesn't make any sense. The Lions already got their win. I think they're done for the season. I think they're going to stink the rest of the season. And you got Kyler Murray, even though he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins, he's coming off a game where he played pretty lousy. He's going to be looking forward to getting this team back on the way that it's supposed to be. It's on a short week. They got tough games coming up. They're not going to think. It's like kind of don't think, meet, just throw. I think that's what it's going to be with Kyler Murray. I think he's going to go out there and have a great game. And I think the Cardinals are going to win this game easy. So I really like that one. And then really quickly, the other one we talked about Falcons-Niners. actually kind of like the Falcons money line here. It's up to 9.5 now, which means everybody's betting on the Niners. That's okay. The Falcons have been very, I've given their O-line grief, and they've actually played very well as of late since they had those two stinkers. So I like the Falcons. The 49ers secondary is in a little bit of injury trouble, and I think this could be a shootout, and I really like Atlanta.
All right, my big Bucks picks. By the way, some breaking news here. The Pro Football Talk reports NFLPA currently pushing aggressively for a postponement of the Raiders-Browns game on Saturday. Some in the union believe the entire season should be shut down for a week. So stay tuned, folks, because I don't think that will happen. I don't think they're going to shut down for an entire week. I could see Raiders-Browns them trying to play on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I know, Jim, you said it's a Saturday game, but I mean, at some point you just say, we're going to lose that TV slot and we'll get one on Tuesday prime time and everybody will watch then. So
the logistics of doing that are just insanely bad. You'd have to play tonight's game, obviously, and then you'd have to move week 15 to week 19, and then you have to lose the extra week between the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen.
Listen, if the entire week's not going to happen. If the Raiders-Browns game gets postponed, I think it will happen tonight, because the Raiders can be traveling tomorrow. So sure. I think it'll happen tonight or first thing tomorrow. My big Bucks picks, I stayed far away from anything with a lot of COVID issues, or at least I tried to. Again, we don't know where they'll pop up next. But I really like Coastal Carolina in the Cure Bowl tomorrow night. Devin, I believe you went the other direction from me on this one. But I just think the talent level on these teams is dramatically different. And again, you're trying to judge bowl game motivation. And maybe you know more about Northern Illinois than I do. I saw them stumble through the season a little bit, and Coastal legitimately like a top 30 team. I think they win a blowout here.
Yeah, I went the other way because of the motivation factor. Coastal was vying to be one of those group of 5 teams that got into a New Year's Six bowl game this year. They lose to I believe lost to App State and then lost to Georgia State. So I just worry about how much are they going to care about this game, because it's not what they wanted. They're playing one of the first bowl games, and they're expecting to be a team that plays towards the end. So that's why I went Northern Illinois on that one.
I did agree with you on UTEP against Fresno State. And then in the NFL, I'm taking the Colts against the Patriots. I just think the Patriots are one of those teams that and again, all credit to Belichick, all credit to Mac Jones, that they've been playing fantastic. It just feels like they've been playing above their level for a little too long. They're playing a good team. It's just time to come crashing down to earth for 1 week. I'll take the Colts. Talked about the Jaguars. I'm swallowing hard and taking the Steelers. I think they can pass the ball on the Titans. And then the Saints, I'll throw a little bit on the Saints. They have not been that big of an underdog, by the way, since 2006, New Year's Day of 2006. The last game before Sean Payton arrived. So this is the first time, if the line stays at 11, the first time they'll be 11-point underdogs in the Sean Payton era. He excels as an underdog. He finds a way to compete. I'm not putting a lot on it because I hear what you're saying, Jim, that it could be a situation, especially if they're down 13-3 early, like, hey, let's just get out of here without getting hurt and play for the last 3 games. So we'll see, but I do like the Saints with that many points. So, guys, final thoughts real quick, Devin?
Excited for the bowl season to get started. It's going to be just a lot of random football games on throughout the week, and it'll help us get to the national championship game and then NFL playoffs.
By the way, bowl games, look out for COVID too, because they will not hesitate to cancel those things. They're exhibitions, so they'll cancel them at the drop of a hat if they have COVID problems. Jim?
I agree, but I tell you what, I've always said, you win fantasy baseball, your fantasy baseball league, you are the best owner. You've made the best moves. You deserve to win. The best owner doesn't always win in fantasy football, and this year is going to certainly prove that, because most teams are. I was lucky enough to have a bye. Not that it's going to be any better next week, because I think it's going to be just as bad in week 16 as it is in week 15. So, I'm really happy that I had a bye and I'm making it into the semifinals. But there are a lot of teams playing playoff games in fantasy football this week, and I don't envy you, because if you have any of these players that are on the list, or you never know if something's going to pop up on Saturday night and somebody gets tested positive, it's going to be a nightmare the rest of the season. And that's why, another reason why I don't think you're going to see a week of postponement. I don't think it would help anything. It's going to be just as bad next week as it is this week, if not worse.
Yeah, it certainly could be the case. So we're all battling COVID, hoping for the best. Hope everybody stays healthy and safe. Invite you to go to NOLA.com/Caesars, download that app, get your bonus, and have a good weekend, everybody. And we'll see you next week for some holiday editions, odds and ends.
Real quick, Zach, you
4
didn't even
o'clock on
promote.
Monday.
You didn't even promote that you're on Datitude tomorrow.
I am on Datitude tomorrow. So tune in to Datitude tomorrow and the one yesterday. Lots of good New Orleans area sports talk from Jim, for Jim and Devin Jackson. I'm Zach Ewing, and we'll see you on Monday, everybody.